Welcome to a Fabrengen, Lakewood Yud Shvat. And we usually start with a story, which is apropos for the event. There's a story they say about Reb Chayim Brisker, who was one of the greatest geniuses in Torah in the 2 generations ago, in the time of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe. And one time Reb Chayim Brisker's son became a Chosson. He got engaged. And his future father-in-law promised him a very nice naden, a very nice dowry. So Reb Chaim's son came to the Beis HaMedrash, to the study hall, where the Bochrim, his friends, were sitting. And they all came over to him and wished him Mazel Tov. And then he started boasting a little about the fact that he's getting this huge naden of 10,000 ruble. Those days was a huge amount of money. So Reb Chayim overheard the conversation. He went over to the group of boys and he told his son in front of them, do you realize that the reason why you're getting such a naden, such a dowry, is because you are Reb Chaim's son? So the son turns back to the father with derech eretz, with a proper respect, and he says, Ta, are you trying to say that you are worth only 10,000 ruble? So Reb Chaim, without skipping a beat, says, no, my dear son. I am worth millions. The problem is that in this transaction, you are involved, so my value went down to 10,000 ruble. When we chassidim come and start talking about the Rebbe, about the previous Rebbe, we're not even going to talk about what the value is. We cannot, impossible for us to be able to discuss the Rebbe or the Frierdiker Rebbe, especially like on the day of Yud Shvat, which is the day when the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, passed away. The Rebbe took over the Nesius, the leadership of Lubavitch. On the other hand, we as chassidim were told by the Rabbeim, and especially by the Rebbe, that when these days come, we have to make a Yom Hisvadus, we have to make a Fabrengen, we have to get together, discuss, reminisce, discuss stories, discuss Torah, and how everything is rooted in Torah, and then what do we learn out of all this? So therefore, we are going to be discussing a little bit about the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe, their connection, some stories, and of course the source where we find all of this in Torah. One of the most famous things where the previous Rebbe sort of compared the difference between himself and the Rebbe was in 1941, the Rebbe came to America from Nazi Germany. He actually came from France, through Portugal, etc. It's a long story, which we discussed in the past. We're not going to go now through the details. The previous Rebbe arrived in America to stay in 1940. He came once for a visit in 1929, 1930, but then when he came to stay, it was in 1940. The Rebbe came in 1941. When the Rebbe had to come, on the day of Chof Ches Sivan, 28 days in the month of Sivan, so the previous Rebbe sent a delegation of chassidim to greet the Rebbe. Whom did the Rebbe send? The older chassidim, Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Simpson, Reb Shmuel Levitin. And the previous Rebbe had to describe to them the Rebbe, because all these chassidim came to America in the 20s or in the early 30s. The Rebbe between 1930 and 1940 was in Poland, in Berlin, in Paris, in those places. So they were Russians who came straight to America, so they never saw the Rebbe. So the previous Rebbe had to describe the Rebbe. So the story goes that he told them as follows about the Rebbe. At his aboki, he's clear in Shas, the Talmud, Bavli, Yerushalmi, and he mentioned a whole bunch of the Mefarshim, and then he quoted all kinds of Sfarim. The Rebbe is aboki, he knows them all. And also of Likutei Torah, the Likutei Torah of the Alter Rebbe. It's a massive sefer of Chassidus. And he said he's aboki in the whole Likutei Torah, mit alle Ayin Shams. All the Ayin Shams means the Alter Rebbe in many places says, as I explained somewhere else, look over there. So he knows all the Ayin Shams, what they are. But the Frierdiker Rebbe added one more important point. He said, aber ich gehe mit der Schlappe aruf. I go with my hat up. Und verstellt es. As it is known, the Rebbe always went with a hat with the brim down. He says, this is not just because that's the style. He says, my son-in-law, the Rebbe, he covers it up. The Rebbe is always very quiet. He never boasts about himself. No, but he makes believe as if he's such a simple person. And that is the Rebbe. And the Rebbe was like this all the years. The Rebbe never showed off or never. He spoke by Fabrengens because this is what the previous Rebbe told him to do, that he has to talk a lot Torah. But the Rebbe never spoke about himself or the concepts of what he accomplished, etc. So therefore we see that there's a very strong connection between the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe. And this was an unbelievable transition, like sort of natural, that from the previous Rebbe we went over to the Rebbe. Not only that, everybody knows that the Rebbe's big Maamor, the chassidic discourse that the Rebbe says every single year on Yud Shvat, starts with the words Bosi Legani, which is a pasuk Yishir Hashirim. Most of you learned it already. That Bosi Legani, the Rebbe says, I came to my garden. Why does the Rebbe say the Maamor Bosi Legani? Because the last Shabbos that the previous Rebbe was here on earth, Yud Shvat Tofshin Yud, Yud Shvat in 1950, yeah, Lakewood, that Shabbos, the previous Rebbe gave out a Maamor which starts with the words Bosi Legani. And that Maamor is divided into 20 chapters. So the Rebbe every year on Yud Shvat would say a Maamor Bosi Legani, and every year he would take another chapter. Now this seems to be something coincidental because the previous Rebbe finished with Bosi Legani, so therefore the Rebbe also started with Bosi Legani. It's not coincidental. It's in Torah. Where do we find it in Torah? There's a Medrash in Parshat Vayechi, where the Medrash says very clear, wherever the previous one ends off, the next one takes over, and uses the same expression. And it gives there an example. Moshe Rabenu finished the Torah, finished the brachas in Parshat Vayzesa bracha with the words Ashrecha Yisroel Michamaycha. Ashrecha Yisroel, lucky, fortunate are you, Klal Yisrael, with the words Ashrecha. The next one who wrote a sefer was David HaMelech with Tehillim. How did David HaMelech start Tehillim? Ashrei Yoshve Veisecha, with the word Ashrei Smimedarch, with the word Ashrei. So what do we see over here? Ashrei Darch is Kufyotes. Ashrei Ha'ish Asher Leholach Batzas Reshoim. But again, with the word Ashrei, so therefore, it's a thing in Torah that whatever one finishes and the other one starts, that is the transition. Later we will see another beautiful thing amongst a few of the Rabbeim, as we will see further. So we see here clearly that this is not just a coincidental thing, that there was a previous Rebbe and then one had to take over, it's the Rebbe. No, this is a trend, and as we're going to see even more throughout our Fabrengen, throughout our conversation here, through stories and Torah. So let's go now and see something very interesting in the sources in the Torah. Because Yud Shvat, it's not coincidental that it happens at a certain time of the year. We're soon going to go, if we'll have the time, we'll also go a little bit al pi Kabbalah, how this works. But as we mentioned many times, the Shalah HaKadosh, the Shnei Luchas Abris, Rabbi Shaya Levi Horovitz, was before the Baal Shem Tov, he writes that the Parshas HaShavua that we read in the Torah are connected to the Yomim Tovim that happened at that time. For example, Tisha B'Av is connected to Parshas Dvarim because Parshas Dvarim is always before Tisha B'Av. That's how we have the word Eicha in the Parsha. Bamidbar, Nosai are always connected to Shavuos because they're always before and after Shavuos. And so on with all the Parshas. Vayeshev, Miketz are always connected to Chanukah, etc. So obviously, comes a day like Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat is always either in Parsha Boy or Parsha Beshalach. So, since this year it's in Parsha Beshalach, so we will discuss the connection between Yud Shvat and Parsha Beshalach, and also to explain the transition between the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe, how it's so beautiful in the Parsha. And not only that, it also brings out their avodah. What did the Frierdiker Rebbe want to accomplish here on this earth? What did the Rebbe take over from the previous Rebbe and finish the job that the previous Rebbe was trying to accomplish? And we will see how it's like a beautiful chain, interconnected one into the other. So if you don't mind, take your curriculum, and this is going to be number 1. This is the first few psukim in Parsha Beshalach. And we have to remember that obviously the connection is going to be pretty obvious, being that the previous Rebbe's name was Yosef Yitzchak. So therefore the Rebbe connected a lot of things with the Frierdiker Rebbe with Yosef in the Torah. Al pi Pshat, Al pi Kabbalah, Al pi Remez, etc. So now obviously we're going to take a part in the parsha that talks about Yosef, and obviously that's going to be the connection to the Frierdiker Rebbe, but it's not, like I said before, coincidental. It's going to be a beautiful explanation to what the Frierdiker Rebbe accomplished. So let's go to curriculum, point number one, source number one, Parsha B'Shalach in the beginning. Says the Rebbe, says the Torah, Vayhi B'Shalach Paroi Yisrael, and it was when Paroi sent away the people. So what did the Rebbe do? The next pasuk, Vayasev Elikim Esa'om Derech HaMidbar Yamsuf, that the Rebbe made the Yidden make like a big turn towards the Midbar, towards the desert. And says the Torah, Vachamushim Oluv Neisrael Meret Mitzrayim. And the Yidden were armed. Rashi has another pshat, fifth, but we're not going to get into that. The pasuk, the pshat is Vachamushim Mizuyonim, that they were armed with arms. Next pasuk, Vayikach Moshe es atzmos Yosef imay. Moshe Rabenu took the bones of Yosef with him. Yosef HaTzadik, who passed away in Parshas Vayechi. Before he passed away, he asked the Yidden, please, when you leave Mitzrayim, take me out of Mitzrayim with me. Ve'alisem es atzmos, I take my bones with you. Says the pasuk, that why did Moshe Rabenu take the bones of Yosef with him? Ki hashbeya hishbiyas b'nei Yisrael leimer. Because Yosef made the Yidden swear, take an oath. The Rebbe is going to remember you when we are finished with this whole Mitzrayim business. And you're going to take up with you my bones. That is why Moshe Rabenu took the bones. So we're going to have a question that Pashat in the Pshat, in the Pasuk. The Torah says that the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim and they were armed. Then says the Torah, Moshe Rabenu took the bones of Yosef. What's the connection of the two things? And in general, we need to understand, the Yidden already left Mitzrayim last week in Parsha Boy. How come all of a sudden, it says over here about the fact that Moshe Rabenu took the bones of Yosef? So we need to understand what's going on in the Psukim here. So therefore, we have one of the most beautiful Mefarshim, the Kli Yakar. He was over 400 years ago, the Kli Yakar. And he writes as follows. Why does he put the concept of Yosef, Moshe taking out Yosef's bones with the fact that the Yidden were armed? What does the arms have to do with Yosef's bones? And says the Kli Yakar, he gives two explanations. Explanation number one is Lefi shemasik bialkut parsha zu, because in the Yalkut Shemoni, in the Medrash, it says in this parsha Hayom Yom bamidbar shnei aronos, that in the desert, when the Yidden were going through the desert, they had two aronos, two boxes, two caskets. Aron hashchina, the Aron shel Yosef, the Aron of the Shchina, of the presence of the Eibishter, and the Aron of Yosef, the ark of Yosef. And the Goyim were asking, what does it have to do, the box, the casket that carries a dead person, with the Aron of the Eibishter, of Chai Ha'olamim? What did the Yidden answer to the Goyim? This one fulfilled what it says, what the other one commanded. What is it? Yosef kiyem kol aseres hadibros. Yosef, he followed all that aseres hadibros and all the mitzvahs. And that's why he continued. They put it in close, in proximity. Vachamushim olu v'nei Yisroel mizuyonim, that the Yidden came out armed. What was their arms? Uklei zayin shelahem hu aron hakodesh hayoylech imor b'milchama. What was their arms that they were traveling with? The aron hakodesh, the holy ark. That was their arms. So therefore, we put the story of taking out Yosef because Yosef represents the ark. It says the Kli Yakar v'tina achar Matan Torah. This all works after Matan Torah. After the Rebbe gave the Torah, another few weeks, the Rebbe gave the Torah, and then they had the Mishkan, then they had the Aron. But Avol Koydem Matan Torah eichalu chamushim. Where before Matan Torah, how did they go with arms? They didn't have the Aron HaKodesh. They still didn't have the Aron HaKodesh. And says the Kliyakar Al Kein Amar. That's what it says. Vayikach Moshe Satzmas Yosef Imoy. The Yosef took the Moshe took the bones of Yosef. Why? Ki Aron Shel Yosef Hayodoim Keilu Hayachakuk Bekol Aseres Adibres. Because the Aron of Yosef, that represented as if the 10 dibros were carved in that Aron. That's what the Kliyakar says, that the Aron of Yosef represents the regular Aron of the Shechina. Second answer, Davar Acher, Lefi Shera Moshe. Because Moshe Rabenu saw Shashem Yisborach Esivam Derech HaMidbar Yamsuf, that the Rebbe is going to take the Yidden through the desert. He's making a big turn. V'choshav Moshe Rabenu thought Sheim Ula Yakev Aleihem Hayam. What happens if the Yamsuf is going to be in the way? They won't be able to go through. Oh, so what's going to happen then? Yikra lohem bizchus Yosef. It's going to open up. It's going to be ripped. Bizchus of Yosef. As our chachamim tell us on the pasuk, that we say in Hallel, Hayom ra vayonos. Hayom, the sea. Ra, he saw vayonos, and he ran away. In other words, the Yamsuf saw something, and he right away opened up for the Yidden. What did he see? What did he see? Says the Medrash, Atzmoisav shel Yosef, the bones of Yosef. So in other words, we have two answers from the Kliyakar. What's the connection of the fact of the Yidden leaving Mitzrayim armed to the story of Yosef? And says the Kliyakar, either because Yosef and the Aron HaShechina represents the Aron of the Shechina, and that's their weapons, or because Moshe Rabenu figured if they're going through the desert, they're going to have to go through the Yam, and they need something to split the Yam, and that's going to be Atzmoisav Shel Yosef. That's what's going to do it. So, first of all, we need to understand that right now when they were going with the Aron of Yosef, they didn't have yet the second Aron, as the Kliyakar says. So for them to compare the Aron of Yosef to the Aron which is going to be later, something is missing here. It's not very, very clear to do that. Second of all, although there is such a medrash that the Yam split because of Yosef, but in Pshuta Shel Mikra and in Rashi, we don't have that's the reason why the Yam split. We have it because Moshe Rabenu raised his stick, etc., etc. So to say that the Rebbe puts over here the story of the bones of Yosef because of the Yam, it should have had to say somewhere in Pshuta Shel Mikra. So we must say that there's a deeper explanation of to what exactly are the bones of Yosef doing over here. So, in order to understand it, as we usually do, and this is all based on Likutei Sichos, volume 26, Chelik Chavav, pages 85 through 89, the Rebbe explains it as follows. The Rebbe says, we have to understand, why does the Torah use an expression about Yosef which is not honorable, it's not bakavadik. It says, Vayikach Moshe es atzmos Yosef ima. He took the bones of Yosef. What kind of expression is this? Atzmos Yosef, the bones of Yosef. You should have said, he took the Aron of Yosef. He took the casket of Yosef. Yeah, it's true, Taka, that Yosef himself said, Halisem es atzmosai. But it's different if Yosef talks about himself, or if the Torah talks about Yosef, if the Yidden talk about Yosef, if Moshe talks about Yosef. Yosef could talk about himself as he could say, my bones. But the Rebbe, there's a reason why the Rebbe is making a whole big deal of the bones of Yosef. Not only that, when we talk about tzaddikim, we don't say their bones. Look, we had a whole story in Parshas Vayechi with Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu is begging Yosef, please do me a favor, take me over from Egypt, from Mitzrayim, back to Eretz Yisroel. So what did he say? Look in your curriculum in number 3. Vayechi, Perik Mem Zayin Pasuk Lamed. What did Yaakov Avinu say? V'shachavti ma'avoisa. Yosef, I'm going to die and I want to live. I want to lay with my parents. Unsasani mi Mitzrayim. Carry me over from Egypt, and bury me together with them. He doesn't say, take my bones. He just says, carry me. Or the next one, source number 4. In Vayechi, Perik Mem Tes Pasuk Chavtes. When Yaakov Avinu finally is about to die and he's calling over all his children, what did he say? He commanded them, Vayomer Aleihem, Ani Nesaf Elami. My dear children, I'm going to die, says Yaakov Avinu. Kivru Eisel Aveisai, bury me together with my parents. El Hamaor Asher Bizdei, Ephron Achiti. In the cave, which is bought from Ephron. It doesn't say, carry my bones. Even later, when Yosef tells Pari that I'm going to Eretz Yisroel to take my father Yaakov, what did he say? Source number 5. Avi hishbiani lemer. My father made me take an oath that hine onechi meis, I'm going to die. Bekivri asher korisi li beretz Knan shalmatik bereni. In the burial place that I bought for myself in Eretz Knan, over there, whatever the korisi, there's a few pshatim, but basically that he bought, that he acquired in Eretz Knan, over there, please bury me. And now, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to bury my father, and I'll come back. Never do we use the expression bones. So we must say that there's something here about the bones. What is it? So, there is a beautiful Perush on the Torah, which is called the Megala Amukos. We brought him already in the past a few times. Just as Reb Nota Shapiro, he was over 400 years ago. And it's interesting that he writes many things in the Pshuta Shel Mikra, in the simple pshat. It sounds a little bit like Chassidus, but he was way before the Baal Shem Tov, way before Chassidus. So this is all the way he puts it. And what does he say? He says, Atzmois, there's a reason why bones are called Atzmois. Why? Let's look at the beautiful thing of Megala Amukos. By the way, I just wanted to say, Megala Amukos has two Sfarim. Megala Amukos has his Pirush al Torah, the regular Pirush, where over there we have all the things that we always quote. Then he has one just on Parshas V'eschanan. On Parshas V'eschanan, there's what's the greatness of Parshas V'eschanan? Where Moshe Rabenu is pleading with Hashem to let him go to Eretz Yisroel. And the Rebbe is telling him, no, you are going to stay here in the desert. So he has over there over 200 Pirushim explaining that conversation between Moshe Rabenu and the Eibishter. V'eschanan el Hashem, Moshe Rabenu is pleading with the Eibishter, please, I want to go to Eretz Yisroel. So the Oifen HaYud Zayin, the 17th pshat that the Megala Amukos has over there, go to your source number 6. He says as follows: Al pi HaZohar, according to the Zohar, Gimel Heim, there are 3 big tzaddikim that have something exceptional. What are they? Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe. Yaakov, Zocha shenikvar gufay ve'atzmoisav beretz Yisrael. Yaakov was zoche that his bones and his body both went from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisroel. Yosef zocha leikaver atzmoisav ve'loy gufay. Yosef was zoche that his bones should be carried over from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisroel, but not his body. His body stayed in Mitzrayim, whatever happened to it. Because it says, Moshe, Moshe Rabenu, even his bones didn't make it into Eretz Yisroel. It stayed on the other side of the yard. These are the 3. Vehine, says the Megala Amukos, a beautiful line. Sider Moshe bitfilose, Moshe Rabenu was davening over here to the Eibishter, sheyehei shavel elu hashnaim, that he should be compared no less than Yaakov and Yosef. For example, what do we see? It's a long thing over there. I'm just bringing one little point over here. For example, it says in the Torah that when Moshe Rabenu was born, that she saw him, that he was good, and that the whole house was filled with air, with light. So what is that? She saw that she was good. What did she see? Says ledargo de Yosef. He managed to get to the level of Yosef. That's what kitoivu. Without going down into the details of how that works, because it's a long arichas. Therefore, because Moshe Rabenu reached the darga of Yosef, Lachein Amar, that's what it says, Vayikach Moshe's atzmos Yosef. The Moshe Rabenu took the atzmos of Yosef. It doesn't mean that he took the actual bones. Shelokach atzmuso yumadrigasa shel Yosef imei. Atzmos, the etzem, the bones. What are the bones? The bones are the essence of a person. So what Moshe Rabenu took as Atzmos Yosef, he took the essence of Yosef with him. He was showing the Eibishter, look, I am just like Yosef, and therefore he should deserve to be able to go into Eretz Yisroel. So we see over here that the words Atzmos Yosef are not necessarily just, of course it's the bones, but we're not trying to talk about the bones here, but what the bones represent. What do the bones represent? They represent the essence of a person, the strength of a person. The strength of a person is where? In his bones. After a person dies, the body usually decays. What remains? The bones. It takes a much, much longer time for something to happen to the bones. So this is what the pasuk is saying, that Moshe Rabenu took the essence of Yosef. What is it? By the way, we're talking about bones. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a long arichis. But if you notice in Parsha Boy, right before Beshalach, it talks about the Korban Pesach, which talks about the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt. And there's an interesting halacha over there. There's a halacha by the Korban Pesach, ve'etzem lo yisish berubo. You should not break the etzem, the bones. Why not? You're eating meat. So we'll make such a big deal about etzem lo yisish berubo. And there's the Chinuch has along Gariches and others for him where they explain, because the etzem is the concept of the essence. Essence cannot be broken because Yetzias Mitzrayim is something which is going to be eternal, etc., etc. So now we understand that in order to go out of Mitzrayim and in order to be armed properly, what do we need? Says Moshe Rabenu, what do we have to take? Atzmos Yosef. We have to take the essence of Yosef. When we'll have the essence of Yosef, then we will be able to tackle what we are going against. What is this Atzmos of Yosef? What is it? So, when we look in Tanya of the Alter Rebbe, the second section is called Sha'ar HaYichud v'Ha'emunah. In the first chapter of Sha'ar HaYichud v'Ha'emunah, the Alter Rebbe explains that every single thing in the world, let's take a stone. A stone. What is the essence of a stone? Earth. Says the Alter Rebbe that the chayus, the life of the stone, the essence of a stone is its name. How do you say a stone in Hebrew? Even. Even is spelled Aleph Beis Nun. These three letters, Aleph Beis Nun, which are part of the Asara Maimoras, the 10 speeches that the Rebbe created the world with, the letters Aleph Beis Nun, Even, that's what makes the whole chayus, the whole essence of a stone. And everything else in the world, the sky, shamayim, shin, mem, yud, water, mem, yud, mem, the name of the thing, those letters, that's the whole chayus. So therefore, what is the essence of Yosef? What was his name? Yosef. Who gave him the name Yosef? Let's look at source number 9. When he was born, and the Rachel finally had a child, what did she call him? Let's look at source number 9 in Parsha Vayetze. Vatikra shmo Yosef Leimer. She called him Yosef Leimer, saying, Yosef Hashem li bein acher. The Rebbe should add Yosef. He should add to me bein acher, an additional child. So everybody asked the question. The words over here don't make sense. She said, Yosef Hashem li, the Rebbe should add to me, bein acher, an additional child. Why twice the word additional? She should have just said, Yosef Hashem li bein. The Rebbe should give me another child. Why does she say, Yosef Hashem li bein acher, a different child? Why? What's that acher, that different? So we look in the source number 10. Comes the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek in Eretz Yisroel explains it beautifully. He says, acher, what does it mean, acher? She'oso maise acherim, that he did an action which is different, which is improper, like Yerovam v'chaveirav. Like Yerovam, who was one of the kings by the Yidden after the time of Shlomo Amalek, who was not on the positive side. He was a problem, Yerovam. Says the Tzemach Tzedek, so this is a massive question here. Why would Rachel ask to have a child, acher, which does something which is the opposite? As the Alter Rebbe in Tanya in the first chapters, when he discusses Sitra Achra, the other side of Kedusha, it's called Achra. It's it's the opposite of good. So why would Rachel want to have another child which is no good? Yeah, Im Kain, Ma nispalela Rachel sheYosef lo ben acher. Why did she pray to Hashem to give her a child which is no good? That's number 10. Achya Shleimar answers the Tzemach Tzedek, no, that's not the pshat. B'ni, who is the son of the Eibishter? B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. A Yid is the son of the Eibishter, like we say before Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Eibishter says, a Yid is my children. B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. Aval bein acher, who is this bein acher, this other child? Shemibchinas achorayim, somebody who is on the wrong side, negative side. Shenis hapich likdusha. The concept is to take the b'ni, the children of the Eibishter. What is their job? To take the acher and turn it into kedusha, because there's two parts to the world. There's the Eibishter and there's the world. The Eibishter is kedusha, holiness, and the world seems to be the opposite of kedusha. What is the job of Yidden? To take this acher and also turn it into a bein. Yosef Hashem li bein acher, that from the original bein, we're going to take the other one and turn him into a proper bein, and this way everybody comes together. That is the idea of making Yosef. That's the idea of Yosef, that what is Yosef's job? To make sure, obviously, that he is proper, and to take everything else in the world and make it proper, that it should look like Yosef. If that's the case, now we understand the whole thing. The Yidden were in Egypt. Why were the Yidden in Egypt? Because this was the process of the making of a Klal Yisrael. What did Egypt accomplish? That now the Yidden came out as what? As B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. They are my children of the Eibishter. What are they going to accomplish? Now they're going to go out of Mitzrayim. They're going to go into a midbar. They're going to go into a desert. What is a desert? A desert is the opposite of a place where people are, the opposite of a normal, proper place. The Yidden are going to have to take this midbar and turn it, make it from a midbar, from a desert, into a dwelling place for the Eibishter. And that's why it says the pasuk, that the Yidden, let's go back to source number 1, right in the beginning of Parsha B'Shalach, that the Yidden went out, Vayasev Elokim Esa'am, the Eibishter made the Yidden make a turn, Derech HaMidbar. They weren't going straight from Egypt into Eretz Yisroel, finished and the job is over. No. Before the Yidden go into Eretz Yisroel, they have a big job in front of them. What's the job? Go into the desert. How are they going to make it? The Yidden are Kedusha, the desert is Klippa, the desert is the opposite of holiness. How are they going to do it? Says the pasuk, don't worry. Vachamushim alu b'nei Yisrael. They went with the proper weapons, how to deal with it. What was the weapon? Atzmos Yosef. They went with the essence of Yosef. What does Yosef represent? That the Rebbe, Yosef Hashem li bein achad. The Rebbe gives us the keiches that we understand that there's a world out there, and we have to take that world and we have to turn him into a place of Kedusha. That is the tachlis. So if that's the case, now we understand. The Yidden knew when they went out of Mitzrayim that the reason why they went into Mitzrayim, the reason why they're going out of Mitzrayim is, there's a famous lashon in the Medrash that we mentioned many times, and it's all over in Chassidus, that what the Rebbe wanted, Nis'ava Kodesh Baruch Hu Lihi Yisloi Dira B'Tachtonim. The Rebbe wanted to have a dwelling place here on planet Earth. And as we discussed many times, that this is a tough process. We have to take a likus, which is godliness. We have to take the world, which is seems to be the total opposite of godliness, and we are sort of trying to make a blend between the two, that all we see is just that the whole world is really a likus, and that's no simple task. If that's the case, that's what Yosef does, to take a likus and the world and bring them together, now we could start a little bit of a farbrengen regarding the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe and what they were trying to accomplish. The first thing is, where do we see that the Frierdiker Rebbe, that was his thing? We got to go and tackle the world. The previous Rabbeim were basically giving out Maamorim and Sichos, explaining Chassidus, but they all lived in small little towns. In Liadi, in Liozne, in Lubavitch. These were all tiny little towns, because everybody tries to stay, from a Yid, especially if you want to learn Torah, they try to sort of stay away from the big hummel of the cities. Hamoino shel Reimi. We're going to deal with ourselves and build up the concept of Torah. The previous Rebbe already, he came and went into the big towns. First, the Frierdiker Rebbe went out of Russia. He went to Poland, then he started dealing with the whole European belt, and then he came to America. Now, when the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America, he had a choice. He could have gone to live in Lakewood, still a nice shtetl. He could have gone to upstate New York, Monsey, Monroe. There were plenty of towns, a square town, New Square, whatever you want to call it, all these little shtetl. And that's why a lot of the people who came then, they went to these little towns, still, that the kids should be able to learn in yeshiva and not be so affected by the outside. No. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, we're going to go straight and into the world. And that's why he came dafke to New York. New York City then was the center of the world, and it still is to a certain extent. The UN is here. There are many, many things are great about New York City, and that's why the Frierdiker Rebbe came to New York City. Within New York City, he could have gone to an area which is called Yerushalayim de America at that time. No, the Frierdiker Rebbe moved to a place like Crown Heights. At that time, Crown Heights was full of Yidden, but were all, unfortunately, not very close to Yiddishkeit. And there was a whole petition I don't know if you know the story, but when the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted to buy the building on 770 Eastern Parkway, we could have a whole class just on 770. But there was a petition from the block not to let the rabbi get the house on Eastern Parkway because they didn't want to have a frum rabbi on the block. But next door to 770, I believe his name was Dr. Shapiro, and which later the library now is in his house. So he was the only one that didn't sign. And I heard for the Elter Bachrim, now or Elter Zedis, but at that time when they were the Elter Bachrim, that one time this Dr. Shapiro, he asked that they should be a little more quiet in 770 because he can't sleep at night. He was a dentist, I think. And he says, if not for me, you wouldn't be here in 770. So we see here that the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted to go to he wanted to go as deep as possible into the world to be able to take it over properly. So this is part of the... and if that's the case, we will see something very, very interesting. What is the process to be able to go into Eretz Yisroel finally? In order for you to go to Eretz Yisroel. So if you look in the Rambam writes, Hilchos Malachim, he says as follows. Sholosh mitzvos nitztavu Yisroel b'shas knisas ha'aretz. There are 3 mitzvahs that the Yidden were commanded in order to go into Eretz Yisroel. What are the 3 mitzvahs? The first mitzvah is Lamanis lahem melech, to appoint a king. The second mitzvah is Lahachrizare shel Amalek, to get rid of Amalek. And the third mitzvah is Livnes Beis HaBchira, to build a Beis HaMikdash. Which this is in essence the process from going out of Mitzrayim to go to the Geula Hasidah. What is the process? Number 1, the Yidden have to appoint a king. There has to be a Torah Tzivalonu Moshe, like we say in the Parsha Vayaminu B'Hashem of Moshe Avdei. That's the first thing. We have to have a leader. That's what happened only after Mitzrayim. Then we have to lehachrizare shel Amalek. We have to get rid of the whole Amalek, the whole Golus. And then we could have livnes beis HaBchira. We could build a house for the Eibishter, which is the whole world, is the Beis HaMikdash, will become the Beis HaMikdash of the Eibishter. These are the 3 basic steps. Lamanis lamelech, lehachrizare shel Amalek, livnes beis HaBchira. These are the 3. When we're going to look, my first discourse that a Rebbe says, that sets the agenda for his whole life ahead. The 5th Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, was the 5th, the Frierdiker Rebbe was the 6th, and the Rebbe is the 7th. How is the first Maamor of the Rebbe Rashab start? The Rebbe Rashab said hundreds of Maamorim, perhaps thousands. The whole Ein Beis, Samach Vov, he said so many Maamorim. How does the first one start? Keser Yitnu Lecha. With the words, a crown should be given to you, Eibishter. In other words, the concept of crowning a king. Lemanos lehem melech. The Frierdiker Rebbe went to read the second step. The Frierdiker Rebbe, how does his first Maamor start? First Maamor of Frierdiker Rebbe? Sefer Amorim Tov Reish Pei? 1920. First Maamor of the Frierdiker Rebbe starts, Reshis Goyim Amalek v'charisa David. The words that Bilam said, that the biggest klippa in the world is Amalek, but v'charisa David, the soft will be that we're going to wipe him out. That was the Frierdiker Rebbe's agenda. The Rebbe's agenda, Bosi Legani Achaisi Kala, where the Rebbe just says, I'm finally back in my dwelling place. How is that? As the Rebbe explains right away in the beginning, the Maamor, Ve'osuli Mikdash Eshachanti B'Seicham, that you make from your Beis HaMikdash, B'Seicham, B'Seichol Echad V'Echad Misrael. It goes to every single year, etc., etc. So we see here such a beautiful transition over here, that what the Pasuk said, that V'chamushim Ol B'nei Yisrael, the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim with the Atzmus of Yosef in order to reach Eretz Yisroel. These are the 3 Maamorim. Keser Yitnu Lecha, Lemanis Lehem Melech, as the Rambam says, Lahachrizare shel Amalek, the first Maamor of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and then Bosi Legani Achaisi Kala, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maamor. But this goes even further. It's Bemes Gishmak. I'm sure everyone has seen the Sefer. Sefer is called Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom is the famous Sefer that the Rebbe wrote. And on the one hand, the Rebbe wrote it. On the other hand, it's all full of pisgamim, of sayings from the previous Rebbe. And this, first the Rebbe wrote, the Haggadah that the Rebbe wrote was later. The first Sefer the Rebbe made was Hayom Yom. There's a young man, his name is Rabbi Zelikson. I'm sure most of you heard of him, or should. He took this Hayom Yom, and he wrote Sfarim after Sfarim. 1, 2, I have a third one upstairs. And he explained, unbelievably, how each one of these, how the whole setup of the Sefer goes according to the Rambam, goes according to the year, goes according to the history of Yidden. It's amazing. We have to have a separate class just to talk about the Hayom Yom. But there's one line that Rebbe should give him all the brachas. He says, you see, it says Hayom Yom. That's the name of the Sefer that the previous Rebbe asked the Rebbe to make. It's Hayom Yom. The Yom is Yom. It says that a person should mention his name in the name of his Sefer. Look what we have over here. The Frierdiker Rebbe's name was Yosef Yitzchak, Yud Yud. The Rebbe, this has two names and both start with a Mem. The letter Vav, what does the letter Vav represent? This is all over in Tanya and in Chassidus, that when we want to, for example, you have the Rebbe's name, Yud K, Vav K. So you have Yud K, Vav is what connects the top with the bottom. So here you have it. Hayom Yom. Yud is the Frierdiker Rebbe, the connection, and the Rebbe with the Mem. Yud Vav Mem. The next one is again Yud Vav Mem, the connection of Frierdiker Rebbe to the Rebbe. So Hayom Yom. And every day we have to live with this concept. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe, that there's a transition here, and we are continuing the work of what it says in the Torah, V'chamushim olu b'nei Yisrael, v'yikach esatz Yosef, that we are going to tackle this world, and we are going to succeed. There's no question about that. And this is what the Rebbe makes very clear in the Maamor, Bosi Legani. Another very interesting thing. I know some people are going to take this a little bit, whatever, but one of the most interesting personalities in our generation, I still remember it, that was connected with the Rebbe, aber pashat a unbelievable love of Rebbe to Chassid. This Chassid was President Shazar. President Shazar of Eretz Yisroel. Besides that, his name was Shazar, his real name was Shneir Zalman Rubashov. We should have a separate class just to talk about Shazar. There's a whole book of 300-400 pages just about the connection of the Rebbe with Shazar. And his name was Shneir Zalman Rubashov, which the word Shazar. And he was named Shneir Zalman after a great-grandfather of his who was named after the Alter Rebbe. And he was a unicle of chassidim, and between him and the Rebbe there was an unbelievable... there are certain things that the Rebbe told Shazar that he wouldn't tell anybody else. For example, one time Shazar came, and he had a little problem with his trip, if he should make the trip. And when he came to the Rebbe and they were sitting, so the Rebbe told him, "My Shver hat gesagt that the Nisiya wird sein kashur." The Rebbe told him, "My Shver said that your trip was going to be fine." So he was a very smart man. He says, "Shver? Who's Shver?" So the Rebbe says, "Mein Shver, mein Shver." And he right away caught what's going on over here. And he grabbed the Rebbe's hand, and he was unbelievable shaken by just hearing the Rebbe saying just a statement. Because there was already a story before. Before he became president, again, we will need more time for this, I'm just going to do it very briefly. Before he became president of Eretz Yisroel, he used to come to the Rebbe a lot. He was here by the Frierdiker Rebbe still in 1948 when he came into the UN, but we're not going to get into that. So he came, the first time that he came as president, he actually went from Eretz Yisroel to South America. From South America, he made a stop in New York to go back to Eretz Yisroel. The question was, now who's going to go to who? Because now he's the president of the United States, of Eretz Yisroel. Will the Rebbe come to him to Manhattan, or will he come to the Rebbe as a chassid to a Rebbe? And the pressure on him was unbelievably crazy. That was the president of Israel. The Rebbe should come to him. Was that he should go to the Rebbe? Anyways, and it was on a Thursday evening. He was in the hotel in Manhattan, and he called up the Rebbe, and they had a very nice conversation. And he told the Rebbe in a very nice way, that there's pressure about who is going to go to who, etc. The Rebbe very calmly said that tomorrow he's going to the Oyel, to the resting place of the previous Rebbe. We'll ask the Frierdiker Rebbe. Whatever he says, that's what we're going to do. When they heard such a line, and everybody knows that the Rebbe doesn't kid around here. So, fine. So he said, very good. So we'll be in touch tomorrow, said Shazar. Sure. He closed the phone. Everybody wanted to know, what did the Rebbe say? And he told him, very simple. He said that tomorrow he's going to the Shver, he's going to his father-in-law, and he's going to ask. Very, very simple. And of course, everybody said, oh my God, look, this is something totally new. This was written up, by the way, by the people who were with him. To make a long story short, the next day, the Rebbe and Shazar were speaking before Shabbos. The bottom line was, von Lubavitch fort man nicht heraus. There are some that say that the Rebbe said, der Schwer hat gesagt, dass von Lubavitch fort man nicht heraus. Whichever, but the bottom line is, it was unquestionable that the Rebbe was going to ask the previous Rebbe what to do, and the bottom line was, sorry, we cannot leave Lubavitch. So, as soon as Shazar heard that, he closed the phone, he told his guys, Mefort, we are going tomorrow night to Crown Heights 2770. We're going to the Rebbe. And when he came to the Rebbe, it's a long story, I'm just going to say the pointer, Lakewood, the Fabrengen over here, that the Rebbe, if you see these pictures, beautiful pictures, how the Rebbe is taking him through the Zal of 770, through the upstairs small shul, and the Rebbe is showing him a table, the Rebbe is showing him the Aron Kodesh, the Rebbe is showing a certain corner, and the Rebbe says, by that corner, my Schwer davend, the Frierdiker Rebbe da gedavend. Da hat man gelernt. And then when the Rebbe took him into his room, to the Rebbe's private room, he said, by this table, thousands and thousands of tears were shed on this table, and they were all helped. He says, all of this I couldn't bring to you in Manhattan. I'm very sorry. So we see here how the Rebbe made it always so clear that he is totally bottled to the previous Rebbe, and as Chassidim always explain, that the world is like a mirror. Why are Chassidim bottled to a Rebbe? Not because the Rebbe dictates the Chassidim, because they see that the Rebbe is bottled to his Rebbe. The way you are, that's the way how people are towards you. The Rebbe never spoke about himself. The Rebbe always said, Ein olav elo. He has his Rebbe. And he is bottled to his Rebbe. Automatically, his Chassidim are going to be bottled to him. But let's see another very, very interesting thing. You obviously say Chitas, which is Tanya. We have a Tanya of Shir Chitas for every single day. And the Shir Chitas of Yud Shvat, where is it? It's in Peri Chav Beis, the second half, towards the end. How does the Shir Tanya end? With which words? That the Rebishter is Mechayes Kulom Umehava Oisam. The Rebishter puts life into everyone. How? When? May ayin leyesh tamid. From ayin, from nothing, he turns into a yesh, he turns it into a being, and forever. The Rebbe that is constantly gives the chayas, may ayin leyesh, from nothing to yesh, to something. What is may ayin leyesh? Ayin is the Rashi Tevis, the letters of Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. Yesh is the day of Yud Shvat. So everything goes me'ayin leyesh tamid. Our job is to prove, to show in everything the ayin which is in the yesh. We have to take the whole world and pasha, transform it into. There is a yesh. The world seems to be an essence for itself. No, it's the ayin. It's the elikus of the Eibishter. And just to finish off that. But that, unfortunately, we're going to have to do a different time because we don't have enough time now. There's a beautiful concept of the concept that Yud Shvat, Yud is the number 10. Yud Al Shvat, the month of Shvat is the 11th month, right? From Nisan, Shvat is the 11th month. So Yud Shvat is sort of represented by the number 10 and the number 11. The 10th day, the 11th month. So the previous Rebbe passed away on the 10th of the 11th. The Rebbe became Rebbe on the 11th of the 11th. What's this number 10 and 11? We're going to discuss it in a whole separate shiur, but very briefly, the world is represented in the number 10. Ba'asara Maimoris Nivroilam, the world was created in 10. Everything is in number 10. The Aseres Adibris was given for the world. The Aseres Adibris, though, we have, Al Pi Kabbalah, it says that we have twice the Aseres Adibris in the Torah. We have it once in Parsha V'eschanan, and we have once in Parsha Yisrei, that we're going to read next week after B'Shalach. In Parsha V'eschanan, it just says that Aseres Adibris, how Moshe Rabenu said them. So it just says that Aseres Adibris. In Parsha Yisrei, it says, Vaydaber Elokim eskol hadvarim ha'eile leimoir onechi Hashem Elokecha. So the Vaydaber Elokim eskol hadvarim ha'eile leimoir, this speech is sort of the 11th, and Al Pi Kabbalah, it's Antu Chad V'loi B'chushbon, it's the number 11. Because these were the 10 dibres, how they were said milamayla, how they were said from above. So they are more represented in the number 11. The way they come down here into this world, because the world is number 10, so it's represented in the number 10. So what we have to do is take the 11 and the 10, bring them together, and blend them together that we only see the 11. So the previous Rebbe did the job of Amalek breaking through the ice of the world to take the 11 and bring it to the 10. So they are together now. So we sort of take away the separation between the two. So that's the 10 and the 11. The next generation took Livnes Beis Hamikdash to show how the whole world is Elikus. So now it all becomes 11 in the 11. But as I said, this is another whole shir for itself. But I hope that this will give some more geschmack into the concept that Yud Shvat 10 into 11, what it means al pi Kabbalah. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to discuss it. And would like to finish off with one more detail and then another few cute little stories very quickly. Number one, the Maamor that the Rebbe says is the Maamor of Bosi Legani. As we mentioned before, the first Maamor that Rebbe says is the agenda for the generation. Anybody who ever asked the Rebbe, how can I be connected to the Rebbe? Of course, learning the Maamorim and the Sichos. But there is something which is the pinnacle. The pinnacle is called Chitas. By learning the Shiurim of Chitas, Chumash, Tilim, Tanya every single day, that's our iskashus. And that's why, as a matter of fact, in the Hayom Yom, every single day, before the Rebbe writes for that day, the first thing is the Shiurim, Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, Chitas. As the years went by, in 1984, Tafshim Mem Dalet, the Rebbe started also that not only we learn Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, but we also learn Rambam. So there are four things that the Rebbe wants every single chassid to do. Chumash, Tilim, Tanya. Everyone according to his ability, of course. I heard from a dear friend, Reb Shalom Backman, and he said these four things are berumis. They are hinted in the first word of Bosi Legani. How do you spell Bosi? Bosi Legani. How do you spell Bosi? Beis, Aleph, Taf, Yud. Right? So, let's go in order. What is the first thing that we have to do in Chitas? Chumash. What is the first letter in the Chumash? Beis. The next thing is Tehillim. What is the first letter in Tehillim? Ashrei Hoish. As we said before, Aleph. What's the third one? Tanya. What's the first letter in Tanya? Tanya. Tough. What's the fourth thing? Rambam. What's the first letter in Rambam? Yesoid ha-Yesoid is Amud ha-Chochmah. Yud. Bosi. Beis. Aleph. Tough. Yud is Chitas Rambam. So the Rebbe, in his first Maamor, he put everything together. This is Pashat unbelievable. So therefore, a cute little story where we see the unbelievable how the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe just operated the same way, because obviously it works like this. I heard a story many years ago from a dear friend of our family, one of the biggest acronym in Eretz Yisroel, and his name is Reb Shmuel Chefer. His father-in-law was Reb Yosef Chaim Rosenblum. And I remember he was in Italy and he told us the story that when his Shver, Rosenblum, came out from Russia and he came to see the previous Rebbe, I'm not sure if in Poland or in Riga, outside of Russia. So the Yidden in Russia gave him names and names of all the people to ask the Rebbe for a bracha for them. Now, he had to remember most of them, because by the border, if they would find all these names, everybody would get killed. Who knows what would happen to them? So he had to remember, memorize all the names. He tried to remember all the names. He tried. But there was one family that just had a baby not too long ago, and he couldn't remember the name of the baby. He couldn't remember the name of the baby. So now, when he was going into Yechidus to the previous Rebbe, he was thinking, what should I do? Should I tell the Rebbe the names of the whole family and then that there's also a baby but I don't know the name? Or instead of giving tsar to the Rebbe, to give him pain, I just won't say anything about the baby and finished. In the Mirz Hashem, the Rebbe will tell us something's going to happen. And he decided he's not going to give the name. He's going to tell the Frierdiker Rebbe all the names, and that's it. He comes in front of the Frierdiker Rebbe, he says all the names of this family, that family, that family. When it came to this family, he said, the father, the mother, the children, that's it. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, das alles, that's it. Pete, he knew to himself, who am I fooling over here? Am I crazy? And he said, Rebbe, the truth is that a baby was born not too long ago. They gave a name. I forgot. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, vergessen den Namen von a Yiddish Kind? You forgot the name of a child? Of a Jewish child? And The Frierdiker Rebbe right away took his pen and added a name. The Frierdiker Rebbe knew the name. Don't ask me. He said, don't ask me how. The Frierdiker Rebbe knew the name. Which means that the Rebbe has all the chassidim in his mind all the time, 24/7. Because, as we discussed in other shiurim, all the neshamas are all rooted into the Reish B'nai Yisrael, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. But believe it or not, the same story happened with the Rebbe, almost exactly. There's a Yid in Milano, in Italy. He passed away already, he's a Malichtig in Gan Eden, and we should see him very soon. Reb Yankiv Gansberg, he was the Sheikhet in Milan. There's given a Yid, a emissary Likutei Torah Yid. He was a Yid, I would even say a Beinoni. He was Pashat. He never looked outside his dal. He was a Sheikhet. He never cared what goes on outside. He Pashat lived with the old style, like in Russia, like in the shtetl. Although he lived in Milano, which is Catholic as Catholic can get, and Goyish and everything. He was once in Yechidus, and he wrote a zettel for himself, and he wrote his name, and maybe his wife's name. And the Rebbe said, "Who's the name from the kinder? Where the children? Where are their names?" He forgot to write the names of the children. And the Rebbe filled in all the names of the children. Because the Rebbe feels every single chassid 24/7. This is what our Rabbeim are. This is what it says clearly in Tanya. That the Rebbe is the Reish B'nai Yisrael. And all the neshamas are rooted in the Rebbe. And that's why this is how it works. And if I could finish off with one more line, this President Shazar was so ibergegeben to the Rebbe when he was already on his deathbed. So one of the greatest chassidim of our generation, unfortunately, also passed away, Reb Shlomo Badanchik. He used to go and visit him. The last words that Shazar told the Rebbe, told Madanchik, it was Chol HaMoed Sukkos. He passed away Shana Rabbah. Mark the words. The president of Eretz Yisroel, he was almost as high as you can get today in politics. What was his last words? He said, "Git iber dem Rebbe, give over the Rebbe. Vayaminu b'Hashem uveMoshe avdoi." That's the bottom line. Trust the Eibishter, and you believe in Moshe Rabenu. It goes hand in hand. And as the Mechilta says, that whoever doesn't believe in the Eibishter does not believe in Moshe. Whoever doesn't believe in Moshe doesn't believe in the Eibishter. I'm not going to go now through the whole concept of Rebbe. But even a person like Shazar, he felt that the Rebbe Pashat thinks of every single Yid 24/7. And this is his agenda. And that's what we started off with. Vayikach Moshes atzmos Yosef imay. This is what Moshe Rabenu took. The weapon. What is our weapon? Yosef Hashem li bein acher. That we're going to take this world, which is a acher, which is the opposite of Kedusha, and we are going to turn it into Kedusha, and we already got there. We are there at that point where Hashem, the whole world is filled with the knowledge of Hashem. And just like the Rebbeim always promised that that they will not let their flock go on their own. They'll always be there for us. They are here for us. And in Yirtz Hashem, any given moment, now it's just a matter of moments, we are going to be reunited with all our Rebbeim. And we're going to go straight into the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, because we're showing to the Eibishter, Lemanis Lahem Melech, we already appointed our Melech, we have a Melech 100%. Lehachriz Ara Shalom Amalek, we're constantly there showing the world that no, the world is not a place for a Yid, the whole world is a Dira Lo Yisborech, and Livnei Beis HaBchira, that we're building the Dira Lo Yisborech, a beautiful place for the Eibishter. And therefore, thank you, Rebbes, for having us taught us the right path. So, enjoy the rest of Fabrengen. We're going to sing a nigun soon, and then we're going to go and discuss some more issues. L'chaim, l'chaim.